Before I get started, I do consulting on where you can move. I'll work with you to find the perfect place for you to move to. There's more information at the end of the video about that. Now let's get started. Connecticut. It's kind of an okay state. It's scattered with a mix of rural towns and coastal cities. It's best known for its beautiful fall foliage, being home to Yale, and for being the richest state in America, or what many Connecticut residents say, the most expensive. There's a lot of snobs here, and you might not quite fit in. But not every part of Connecticut's nice. There are some really bad places here too. For this video, we're going to look at the worst places you can live in the state of Connecticut. That way, if you decide to move here for some reason, you'll know which parts of the state to avoid. That's an awful lot of dead seashells. I'm here in the state of Connecticut, here on the coast, and there's a lot of dead people in a lot of the areas that we're going to be going to. That's because they're bad places to live. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. You know, where crime is bad and it's kind of beat up and ghetto and where things aren't going very well right now. So let's get started on the worst places to live in the state of Connecticut. We begin our tour of the worst places to live in Connecticut here in Ansonia, a city in New Haven County that lies along the Naugatuck River. There's 18,000 people here, so it's not very big. It was once a critical manufacturing center in the 1900s, though things sure have changed since. The job market here is sluggish, to put it lightly, and it's quite an expensive place to live. While there are part-time jobs available here, it's rare to find a full-time job that pays over minimum wage. 8% of people are out of work here, but the cost of living is 20% higher than the U.S. average. Surprisingly, or not, a home here costs $214,000. Residents complain that the city is definitely not worth the cost, and they refer to it as being sort of in the middle of nowhere. It's close to New York City, kinda, but is that a good thing? However, some people say Ansonia is friendly, and the schools here aren't terrible. Of all cities we're going to talk about in this video, the graduation rate's the highest at 92%. Good job, Ansonia kids. Next up is Norwalk, right along the coast in southwestern Connecticut. It's in Bridgeport County. This is one of the richest cities in Connecticut where some people make $300K, but many live in poverty. It's definitely a have and have-nots kind of place. Home prices are like $450,000 if you're lucky. I guess you can say people aren't rich though because it costs so much to live here. A lot of people who live here complain about how there's an abundance of old people here and how a bowl of ramen costs $30. As for things to do, most activities involve historical landmarks, which may not be for everybody. It's definitely not a place for somebody in their 20s. Norwalk's not a very nice place, sorry to say. Now we're going to visit Danbury, which is also in southwestern Connecticut. Are we seeing a pattern here yet? It too is in Fairfield County. They call it Hat City because it was America's center of hat production in the 19th century. Unfortunately, the type of hat that made Danbury so well known is out of style, and today Danbury's out of style. It's really expensive here too. Homes cost nearly $400,000. The number of people out of work is higher than the national average, and crime's above average. There's just nothing to do here for fun. Now, the cities we talked about before aren't too bad. I mean, they're kind of bad for Connecticut, but if they were in other states, they might be considered average. But we're getting to some really bad places now. We begin with hard-hitting New Britain. It gained that nickname for a reason. While the other places we talked about are kind of bad, the city of 72,000 people has a lot of miserable people, which is sad. The unemployment rate's an astounding 12%, and the job growth has been negative. Crime here is way higher than the U.S. average. Not to mention the schools are absolutely awful, with a graduation rate of 76%. What are they teaching the kids in schools in New Britain? It's also cheaper to live here. You can buy a home for $220,000, though there really isn't much to do for young kids. The nightlife in this city is pretty sparse. Our fifth worst place to live in Connecticut's New London, another coastal city, but it's closer to the Rhode Island state line. If you know where Ocean Beach, Fort Trumbull, and the U.S. Coast Guard are, you know where I'm talking about. This place, too, has a big gap between the rich and the poor. The cost of living here is way above the national average. Drug use has been growing. There's been a lot of overdoses here. It's also pretty boring. And the crime. Your chances of being the victim of a violent or property crime here is 1 in 46. That is super high for Connecticut, people. Derby is also a bad place to live. It's in New Haven County, kind of north of Bridgeport. There's 12,000 people here. Derby began as a trading post. It's now known for being the state's smallest municipality. Derby has a small town vibe, and a lot of people seem to appreciate that. But the biggest downfall here is the lack of opportunities. The unemployment rate here is 12%. A lot of people say they wish for change, and they complain about how dirty downtown is. You can buy a home here for about $200,000. That's not too bad, but what's the price worth living here? And for crime, it varies. Your chances of being the victim of crime in Derby might be 1 in 25 in some neighborhoods, or as low as 1 in 70 in the southeastern part of the city. This may not be a place to have a family. It's run down, expensive, and the graduation rate's been going down. Today, only 3 in 4 kids graduate high school here. Plus, Derby's really seriously lacking in things to do. Although you can avoid the crummy parts of town if you love the outdoors, there's a lot of places to hike around up here. Our 4th worst place to live in Connecticut is New Haven. It's home to Yale University. The area around Yale's campus is pretty nice, but a lot of New Haven's a dump. Poverty and crime is the major drawback here. 1 in 10 people hasn't worked in forever now, and as a result, 1 in 4 people here lives in poverty. Crime is almost double the national average. Plus, even though it's home to Yale, the public schools here are ranked in the bottom 50% of all Connecticut schools. The graduation rate's going up a little, but it's only 80% right now. The people who live here say stay as close to downtown New Haven as possible. And as for the other parts, they're definitely not worth going to. There's a bunch of New Haven neighborhoods that aren't desirable to say the least. People say homes are run down, there's abandoned homes, there's litter everywhere, and the crime, it's bad, bad, bad here, fella. However, this city's unique. There's some museums, they have a lighthouse. It's kind of a weird mix of colonial New England and New York, which could be a selling point, or the exact opposite. And we're going to go inland now for only a few times. This is Waterbury, home to 114,000 people. They call it Brass City because they made a bunch of brass here for a long time. Unfortunately, those jobs left a long time ago, and this city doesn't shine like it once did. 1 in 10 people here refuses to work, and more than 1 in 4 of them gets welfare. Waterbury locals complain about the insane amounts of traffic, the awful schools, and the not-so-rare sounds of gunshots each night. Oh yeah, this place has a crime rate that's nearly double other cities of its size. There's some museums and theaters here. There's some playgrounds and some parks, though people complain that a lot of the parks are graffitied to death. A home here is about $200,000. Not great for a city with a median income of $25,000. Our 2nd worst place to live in Connecticut is Hartford, Connecticut's state capital. This is also the insurance capital of the world. Well, you're going to need some good insurance if you lived here based on the crime numbers. You'd have a 1 in 32 chance of being the victim of a robbery and a 1 in 100 chance of being shot, stabbed, beaten, or attacked. The average income here is a modest $36,000. A lot of folks are out of work, and that number's going up all the time. A lot of people complain about the crime, the awful transportation system, and the cost of living. Plus, the graduation rate's an astonishing 70%. What is wrong with the schools in Hartford, everyone? But residents say it's a diverse city and it's rich in history. Plus, it's home to Mark Twain, but he's been dead forever now. And where's the worst place you can live in the state of Connecticut? That would be Bridgeport, the biggest city here. There's 145,000 people in Bridgeport, and many are straight up struggling. A lot of the jobs that once attracted people to the city went away due to factories moving away in the late 20th century. The poverty rate in Bridgeport is 20%, and the unemployment rate's 8%, and 76% of kids graduate high school. This is not the town you want to be in if you're looking for opportunities. People say the nightlife in Bridgeport is sketchy. There aren't a lot of opportunities to meet other people. So if you're a new person to the city, you might have trouble finding friends outside of work. That is, if you even make it to meet up with people. The crime rate here is super high, and it's just getting worse all the time. There are some positives to this city. Bridgeport's known as Park City because it has 1,300 acres of public park space. So that's cool, and it's cheap here. But as we've talked about over and over, everyone, it's cheap for a reason. Okay, so that was it. That was the worst places to live in Connecticut. Those are the places where crime is bad and it's kind of beat up and ghetto and where things aren't going very well right now. Hopefully these places improve. I don't think they will, but maybe they will. Now, if you're curious about the best places to live in Connecticut, they are these places. So move there if you want a good quality of life, although it's very expensive and there's lots of snobs that live there. That's it. Now enjoy this really cool song about Connecticut. Connecticut, so many trees and leaves that fall down in the fall. Connecticut, so many schools where they all love women's basketball. They're rich, they're snobs, they're stuck up no more. They're taxed to the max and now they're poor. They're rich, they're snobs, they're stuck up no more. They're taxed to the max and now they are poor. Then there's Bridgeport, it's so painful. Then there's Hartford, it's so painful. All the money goes to pay them. All my taxes, kinda hate them. Yeah. Are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. You can get my email in the description to find out how I can help you find your perfect relocation. And I can also help you find your new house too. Email me and I'll work with you on not just helping you figure out where to move, but I can help you find your perfect home too. That's right. I know awesome, reliable agents all over the country, and I'd love to connect you to somebody who can help you search for that perfect home. Hey everyone. So it's pretty clear by now that elected leaders aren't going to help you. If you don't like what you saw in this video, demanding change won't work. You're going to have to do it on your own. If you want to be safe and want your community to be a place where people want to live, you're going to have to clean the place up yourselves. You're going to have to work with your friends and neighbors to lower crime. Politicians clearly don't care as much anymore. It's up to us.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.